My wife handed me divorce papers at my own retirement party while my son raised his glass and called it the best day of his life. My daughter laughed beside him, and more than 100 people stood in stunned silence as my family celebrated the end of my marriage. They believed they were humiliating an ordinary, blue-collar worker who had spent 35 years climbing power poles to keep the city lights on. What none of them knew was that the quiet man they had looked down on for years had spent the last 15 years quietly building a real estate empire. By the end of that night, every smile in that room would disappear. My name is Daniel Harper. For 35 years I worked as an electrical lineman. I missed birthdays, holidays, and family dinners because someone always needed the power restored after storms. I loved my work, but my wife Laura never respected it. She introduced me as someone who simply worked for the city, while my son Ethan and daughter Chloe avoided telling people what I actually did. They believed success only came with expensive offices and business titles. They never realized that every overtime shift, every emergency call, and every holiday I worked had a purpose beyond paying bills. While my family spent money on vacations, shopping, and expensive restaurants, I quietly invested every extra dollar into real estate. During the housing crash, I bought a small duplex, renovated it myself, rented it out, and used the profits to buy another property, then another. Year after year, I repeated the process until I owned 11 rental properties, generating more than $15,000 every month in passive income. I never mentioned it because nobody ever asked where my money came from. They simply assumed I was struggling. As retirement approached, I noticed Laura changing. She guarded her phone, spent more time away from home, and suddenly became obsessed with the gym. Before long, I discovered she was having an affair with her personal trainer. Instead of confronting her, I stayed quiet and watched. Eventually, I realized she was planning to divorce me, and my children already knew about it. They believed she deserved someone more successful and expected her to walk away with half of everything we owned. They had already decided I was the failure in the family. A few weeks before my retirement, they tried preparing me for what was coming. During dinner, they talked about people growing apart and starting new chapters. Ethan even suggested I had never achieved much in life, because I had spent my career working for someone else instead of owning a business. Hearing those words from my own children hurt more than years of physical labor ever had. But I said very little. Sometimes silence tells you exactly who people really are. On the night of my retirement, co-workers, neighbors, and friends filled the hall to celebrate my career. My supervisor praised my dedication, and several tenants thanked me for always taking care of their homes. For the first time in months, I felt respected. Then Laura stood before the crowd, thanked everyone for coming, reached into her purse, and handed me a large envelope. She proudly announced that she had filed for divorce the day before. Before anyone could react, Ethan smiled and called it the best day ever. Chloe laughed and agreed. The room went completely silent. I opened the envelope, folded the papers, smiled, and thanked Laura for making everything easier. Then I faced the crowd and calmly revealed that she had been having an affair for months. Gasps echoed throughout the room. Before anyone recovered, I shared another secret. While everyone believed I was an ordinary utility worker living paycheck to paycheck, I had quietly built a portfolio of 11 rental properties worth more than $2 million. My phone buzzed with a message from my property manager confirming another building had been fully leased, making the timing almost unbelievable. The room exploded with shock as people realized the man they had underestimated had secretly become financially independent years earlier. Laura stared at me in complete disbelief. She demanded to know why I had hidden everything. Simply told her she never cared enough to ask. Every overtime shift she complained about had become another investment. Every weekend I spent working had become another opportunity. While she judged my work boots and dirty clothes, I was building a future that never depended on anyone else. The divorce she planned around taking half of my supposed failure instantly became the biggest mistake of her life, right there in front of everyone. I signed the divorce papers. I told Laura she could have half of the assets she actually knew existed. including the small savings account and the limited equity in our house. The rental properties remained mine because they had been built separately over many years. Then I smiled, thanked everyone for celebrating my retirement, and invited them to enjoy the cake. The divorce was finalized a few months later. Laura received very little compared to what she expected, and her boyfriend disappeared as soon as he realized there was no fortune waiting for him. Ethan and Chloe eventually apologized after learning how wrong they had been, but I refused to rescue them financially. Instead, I told them, respect is earned through actions, not blood. Over time, they built their own careers without depending on my money, and for the first time, they understood the value of honest work. Today, my rental income provides a comfortable life, but the greatest reward is not the money. It is the peace that comes from knowing I no longer need the approval of people who never appreciated my sacrifices. Looking back, I realized something important. Never judge a person by the dirt on their boots or the title on their business card. The quietest person in the room is often building something extraordinary while everyone else is too busy underestimating them. Sometimes the greatest revenge is not getting even. It is living well enough that the people who betrayed you are forced to watch what they chose to walk away from.